Looks like the Sunwell may be the biggest Trojan horse ever on Azeroth that we just accepted with no second thought. A new fourth questline was determined to be coming in 11.1.7, covering a lore-walking scenario all about the Sunwell, how it was cleansed, and how the Void Elves were exiled. Kael'Thas literally stole a Naaru, and ultimately this Naaru sacrificed himself to save the Blood Elves, which definitely seems ridiculous. We know Naaru can transform into pure void beings, and Xal'atath told us that the Naaru are their brethren, they just lost their way. What if this Naaru didn't lose his way and he's laying around dormant, waiting for Xal'atath to awaken him as the Sunwell turns into the biggest and the most dangerous void portal in Midnight? So what is this new lore and what do we know about the Sunwell? If you wanted anything Warcraft related, Gamivo has the best deals on the market that you can get with my link below. You can get almost every other game's software, and they also just added mobile top-ups for all your favorite mobile games with the craziest prices. You can also use my code DORON to get yet another discount, so click my link and get the best deals at Gamivo. So, we've all seen the announcement of 11.1.7 and we've seen the 3 announced lore-walking questlines, which, by the way, are not just filler content of random time travel scenarios. All of them are very relevant to the current storyline, especially the Xal'atath one that explains how she was imprisoned back during the Black Empire, how she was at war with the old gods, and also the ethereal storyline where we learn more about Dimensius and the Brokers. However, there is actually a fourth questline that is not available for testing, and this might just be the biggest setup yet for Midnight, which is when all the good lore is going to be coming. Let's be real, the most of the lore within is really just filler and setup for the big stuff that is going to happen in Midnight and the Last Titan when the World Soul Saga finally starts heating up. So the questline hasn't been determined yet, but the questline isn't even a key point here. It's probably just going to be reliving the Sunwell scenario so that we're familiar with it, and very likely the exile of the Void Elves when they once corrupted the Sunwell. Long story short, the High Elves, or what later would become High Elves, were exiled from Kael'Thas when they were the Highborn. They founded Kael'Thas on the Eastern Kingdoms. Here, they created the Sunwell through the Well of Eternity, which is really interesting now with this new lore, seeing that this might actually be Titan magic, as it is arcane and not even the blood of the World Soul as we had previously believed. However, this Sunwell made them super powerful until artists came in and decided to smash it to resurrect Kael'Thas and to destroy the entirety of their kingdom. Now this is all Warcraft 3 storyline, as the Blood Elves didn't have this power anymore and they were really dependent on this power, so they just started draining magic from other sources, most notably Fel. This new document says that this is what ravaged their minds and bodies over time, and we had seen the Withered all the time and completely crazy Blood Elves, so this isn't really new lore. This is also when the High Elves officially turned into Blood Elves. Now, Kael'Thas realized that they're essentially doomed from this point forward. They gotta figure something out, and as he followed Illidan to Outland, he realized that he could just steal a whole Naaru, which, when you think about it, is a completely crazy notion, but that is exactly what he did. He stole a Naaru and had his Magister transport him into the Sunwell, where they started siphoning its holy power, which was really the craziest use of holy magic we had ever seen before. However, as this now opened the door to the Legion and Kil'jaeden wanted to come through with this power source, a supposed miracle happened, and I say supposed because I think we're going to learn something crazy and that this was not really a miracle but a long-term plan. The Naaru that was completely abused by the elves and stolen suddenly sacrificed himself for the good of all, especially the good of the Blood Elves, and he cleansed and restored the Sunwell. This fixed the Blood Elven problem. They now had a new Sunwell and it would all be fine and dandy. The document says that never again would they delve into dark magics or place the Sunwell in peril, but that WoW would soon be put to the test. This is likely referring to the Void Elf questline, where Void Elves, when they were near it a few years back, suddenly started creating giant problems with the Sunwell because void beings started coming out of it, and for this they were exiled. Now check this out, in Midnight it was confirmed that the Void invasion is going to happen through the Sunwell, and I think a giant betrayal is going to happen. So let me really quickly explain what I mean. Naaru are very weird, very strange beings. They're essentially the complete embodiment of the light, like pure light, but at the same time we had seen on multiple occasions that they turn into pure void and literally become void gods, which is really weird when you think about it. This would be like if Wellen suddenly turned into Kill Jaden in an instant. So think about this, the Naaru that was kidnapped and abused suddenly decided for the good of his captors to sacrifice himself and save them, but literally, what if it was too late already? He was already in the void cycle, and this was all a part of the elaborate plan with Xal'atath to create a giant void portal that would spearhead the void invasion that was confirmed to come at any moment, so this was like a long-term plan. I want to really quickly circle back to Xal'atath and the famous quote that you may or may not remember. At one point in time she told us that the Naaru are their brethren that lost their way. This kind of has a different connotation, as for example we recently learned old gods imprisoned her and she saw them as just stupid brutes, while she was kind of giving a chance to the Naaru as if some Naaru are her allies, and very likely they are, and they're probably in on the plan. So the new lore from 11.1.7 shows us what happened with Xal'atath. Apparently Azeroth was building something in Iota that he shouldn't have, and for this Xal'atath decided to invade him. Xal'atath was shown as a pure void god type being leading a pure void army, while the old gods united in their empowered forms that don't seem to be so void after all. This pure void form of Xal'atath is really not all that different than what happens with the Naaru when they fully transform themselves. Now, if you may remember the scenario with the Naaru Muru that Kael'Thas captured, he ultimately was warped into a void god and was therefore defeated, but the question is, was he really defeated? Remember the Void Elf questline, the presence of the Void Elves did something crazy to the Sunwell. It started to act like a mini void invasion, and because of this dark magics, these guys were exiled from Kael'Thas. Now, the unification of the elves was confirmed for midnight, and last time Xal'atath stole the body of someone, she destroyed Elran, which was never before so easily destroyed. Now, I'm not saying that Muru is fully alive, but maybe that Void God was not truly defeated, and maybe the void essence is still lingering inside the Sunwell. Guys, look at Beledar. It is a giant light crystal as bright as the sun. It is literally called Belore, which means sun, but it starts all of a sudden flickering and just immediately turns into the void. I think a similar fate is going to happen to the Sunwell, and that the Naaru that seemingly was sacrificed to heal it wasn't really sacrificed, and that we got a ticking time bomb inside. Previously, it almost summoned Kill Jaden, but now when Xal'atath does something crazy, it will be used to summon Dimensios, the All Devouring, and all hell is going to break loose. So the point is, the Sunwell may have been a scam. It was never really cleansed or restored or reignited, but instead we got a temporary cleansing that is probably going to be the worst Trojan horse that we ever had on Azeroth, and the Blood Elves are going to get it worse than they did during Arthas' invasion of Kael'Thas. The only thing I'm not so sure about right now is how is that transition going to happen from Khazgar to the Eastern Kingdoms to Kael'Thas. I think it will be something that we learn about Beledar and this light and void cycle, and this is going to be key. Realistically, I think there is a seed of the void inside the Sunwell that can't be seen yet. This is what caused the mini invasion with the Void Elves, but Xal'atath may use the Dark Heart that she fully empowers in order to fully empower this thing and turn it into a true powerhouse portal that is going to wreak havoc all over Azeroth and bring us, as Blizzard said, the biggest invasion ever. I mean, remember, they told us that the light is also going to come and we will get the final ultimate battle between the light and the void, which is without a doubt a historic moment. The void has been battling the light as far as the universe has existed, so this now happening on Azeroth is definitely not going to be a minor incursion. I think all of this will actually be clear by the time we figure out who Xal'atath truly is, who the Naaru truly are, why do they transform into void gods, and also what Beledar is and what really happened in Khazgar. And really, these reveals are literally just around the corner. Thanks for watching. Check out the Return of Artists in 11.1.7 by clicking on the screen, and check out my history channel by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.